Kuzambo, and welcome to People's Voice. I'm Nawa, and the topic of tonight's discussion is tax. Is it a collective responsibility? I think that we all know by now, because we had one session in Dzongkha where we have been deliberating on how important is it to file your tax or pay your taxes. I think we need to move ahead of this, move forward, and see what are the improvements that we need in our taxation policies, the system of tax that we have in place. So before that, I would also like to inform our viewers that we are keeping our phone lines open as usual. If you have any suggestions, comments or questions, please call our numbers, which will be flashed on the bottom of your screens. And as and when you call us and come up with questions and suggestions, we will try our best to get answers from our panelists here. Let me introduce my panelists before we move on. I have Mr. Phup Sering, who is the General Secretary of BCCI. I have Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Ugen Sering. I have Thimpu Trompen, Mr. Kile Doji. And from Department of Revenue and Custom, I have Kezang Dikila. I'd like to welcome all of you and would really appreciate for having you all here. It's a cold studio, I know that, and many would dread to come to our studio, but really appreciate you all coming here. I think let's not dwell on the importance of tax. We have already had a lengthy discussion in our Dzongkha session. So straight away, ladies first. We have left on an issue where, because our shopkeepers or because our individuals who are supposed to pay tax do not have that propensity or do not have that skills or knack of maintaining proper book of accounts, it has been quite difficult for the officials of Revenue and Customs to levy tax on them. How far is true? And in Dzongkha session, we went to the extent of saying that your officials come and look around, see what are the items that are available in the shop, and based on that, whatever is seen within that time frame is being taxed. This is what we heard.
Okay, thank you first of all, Dawa, for inviting us. I think this is a good opportunity for the Department of Revenue and Customs to clarify to the viewers and to our taxpayers on how we go about in collecting our taxes. So with regard to your question, I think I would like to again reiterate what Getse has said in the earlier Dzongkha session, that yes, when we go about collecting taxes, especially what we call that type of tax as estimated, okay, those who don't maintain accounts. So when we go about collecting this estimated taxes, we have difficulty, but in order to make sure that we are collecting the right amount of tax, what we do is that we first of all, we expect the taxpayers to know what is their daily sales or how much they have imported. So that basic, account, not accounts as such, at least that document they would know, like when they're purchasing something, they just have to keep all their bills together in a file. Now, if they can't even total that, what our people will do is they will say, okay, let us see what you have purchased. We will total for them even that amount. And then, based on that, we more or less have an idea based on the people who keep our books of accounts. So we have an idea of what would be their gross profit margin. So based on their purchase, we would add a gross profit margin, because gross profit margin depends from the different activities of what you're selling. Like if you are a grocery, you have a different GP margin. If you are a hardware, you will have a different one. Whereas if you are selling, if you are a bar and restaurant, you would have a different gross profit margin. So based on what they purchase, we would try to compute their sales. And on their sales, then we would levy the tax to turnover ratio. Now, if people can't even keep that, then I don't know how we can go about, asking them to pay their taxes. So in certain cases, what we do is when people, they actually think they have the documents, but if they don't tell us what is their purchase or what is their turnover like, we do have for the bigger ones, estimated of the bigger taxpayers, what we have is, we have records at the checkpost. The ones at Kharpandi, they have the record of the imports coming into interior Bhutan. So we would also refer to that, what is the purchase value. So based on that, then it is not that we go and levy the tax. We have the estimated form, which is completely separate from accounts. Over there is just basic information, like trying to say what is your purchase information, what is your sales. We ask them to fill that. Now, even if when they don't fill that, now what are we to do? We have to fill it ourselves. So then we ask them, okay, what is your daily sales average? We compute for 1 year from January to December. We collect the taxes only from January, February and March. So we ask them those information, and we try to be as realistic as possible. And unless they have some basic,
So, you see no reason for these shopkeepers to feel disgruntled when they are levied tax upon? Because I've had 1 or 2 shopkeepers within Thimphu coming to us and telling us that some officials from Department of Revenue and Customs came and they were just checking around, and they levied a lump sum amount of so and so, and which they were trying to pour out their resentment or some sort of disgruntlement here.
I think now what I can really say from the the practical problem that our people face, from morning till evening, they are going from shop to shop, asking them, okay, please tell us what is your sales, what is your purchase, then how much would be your tax. Then every time they come across and that person says, I don't have anything, now then what are we to do? So we will say, we will estimate, thinking like what the next door, and looking at the current scenario of what he is in a position to sell, then we would get third-party information. We would ask the people in the same locality before we do an assessment. We would more or less have an idea of who are the ones who are doing better sales, who are doing better business, and who are the ones who are in real problem. So based on that, we would have done a little bit of information collection prior to our levying of tax. Then at a certain point of time, if a person doesn't come forward, what are we to do? We have to then levy a certain amount of tax. And after levying that also, if they are not satisfied, they can still go, because the people who are levying the tax are the tax officers. What they can do is, if they feel that it is not genuine enough or it's not what they are supposed to be paying, they can always appeal. We have the appeal procedure. They can go to the regional director at the regional office. If they are still not satisfied, they can go to the head office. They can come to the head office. Yes. We have the appeal committee. Then still, if they are not satisfied, they can go to the ministry where we have the appeal board, and in the appeal board, we even have the representative from BCCI also, So where we have not only, it's not a Ministry of Finance committee, it is from all other relevant stakeholders. So we have the procedure, and if they can justify, I guess we do give consideration.
Yes. Yes. Mr. Phop Sring saw this as a problem, and you raised this during Dzongkha issue. Let me put the same question to Honorable Member of Parliament. Mr. Ogensen, what do you think, this estimated tax that Amkesang just mentioned? For now, it's quite evident that it requires 2 honest individuals. One, a very honest taxpayer, and a very honest revenue and custom official.
Well, since I've never worked in the civil service or in the Department of Revenue and Customs as one of them, so I have not much say. But while I go to my constituency and meet the traders, they do have a certain feeling as similar to the ones which you expressed. That is, they say that those people who maintain books of accounts are the ones who always show their profit in the negative. And the customs or the revenue and the tax authorities, on being satiated with all the criteria set by the revenue and customs, once they have fulfilled it, they don't question. But those people who are illiterate, who have had some money from their villages and started to do some business, are not in a position every year to make profits. Like the counterparts who maintain books of accounts, they also go through losses. But their losses, when they pour it over the concerned authorities or the officials who visit them to collect their taxes, are on the deaf ears. So therefore, if there could be a mechanism through which, besides referring to Kharbandi check post and computing the purchases and all that, there has to be what they urge and what they pour their grievances to us is like sometimes those people, those traders who do not maintain books of accounts also suffer losses. And that is the time where we need your help most. But then you question us 101 things that we are not able to fulfill. If we were in a position to maintain books of accounts, we won't be begging you. This is what they say. So therefore, like in the bigger picture, in the bigger scenarios, like especially like industries, the big business houses, they feel that whatever the business person has maintained the account and produced in front of the tax officials, they are satisfied. But when we genuinely tell them that just because we could not maintain our books of accounts but suffered certain losses, they don't. Our appeal falls on the deaf ears. So if the tax authorities could look into it, we would be very happy. But as and when they make profit, they are never they will never knock on their door asking for help. This is what they say. So if something could be done to look into these genuine cases who really suffer losses at times due to landslides, due to, for example, people living in Gedu, suddenly during the construction period of Tala hydropower project, it was towards the end of the Tala, it was towards the end of Tala being completed that the new township was built. So when Tala project went back, they borrowed huge sums of money, and then there were no buyers. People had to go from pillar to post, asking including the revenue and customs, please, we could not do business as before. If something could be done to reduce our tax burden, but it fell on the deaf ears also to most of the cases. So if something could be done, it would go a long way, because every year they will not be saying that this year also suffered loss, next year also. I don't think that is the case. So my appeal is that on behalf of the people who are running this business in the 20 Dzongkha, Bhutan is at the moment, the economy is shifting, no doubt, from agriculture to trading, but in a very, very infant stage. So in order to support and nurture this small type of business, if tax authorities could look into it. And the other thing, what they say, what the traders say is that, look, whenever the tax authorities, whenever they come and collect taxes, they come with a pre-decided figure, because their minister or their secretary or their board has already decided to contribute this much amount of money to the national exchequer. So therefore, let us divide the amount into certain pockets. So therefore, if they collect, their target is achieved. So they go on pestering. This is what the general public feel.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Amkesang, I'll come back to you. I think we have a caller waiting for us. We have our first caller. We'll take this call and then come back to two issues, one deaf ear and the other one pre-decided tax. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is King of Pelzang.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling from Thimphu.
Okay, please go ahead.
Actually, I have one doubt.
Yes, sir.
There, most of the people in the sense, most of the revenue and custom official, when they come to the shop and all, there are more chances that they always keep on rising that tax amount. For example, suppose the town situated somewhere in a local place, then moreover there are more shopkeepers that they want to sell in their own villages. So there are chances that the amount or profit they can get from their shop is reducing. But instead of that, they are not looking into that matter. They just come to the shop, then they just look into the tax amount how they paid last year. So instead of looking to that, and instead of looking to the matter which have more shop open in remote places, instead of that, they just raise the tax, and I think that is not fair. And moreover, there are some offshoots. For example, if the shopkeeper who can have more excuses, who can beg more. For example, this time I could not have any profit, something like that. I had that problem and all. They have lots of excuses and they break the offshoots. I have observed that some offshoots, they exempt or they have minus or they have charged them very less.
Okay.
Then I think that is not fair. I think that has to be looked into the matter.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your concern. The issue of fairness. Maybe, Amkesang, you have three questions in hand. Okay, one by one. Maybe the deaf ears first.
Okay, I think I'll answer the caller first,
please,
Mr. Kinga. While your grievance may be right, I mean, to a certain extent, because they must have faced our tax officials, so I cannot really say how it is happening in the field. while we at the management level, we always tell our officials that you have to try to assess as to the most reasonable, and you have to explain properly to the taxpayer. Now, in certain cases where he says that they have to keep increasing the taxes, it might be true that they have to keep increasing because it could be that the business, it may have been found out that the business in that locality may have been doing well in a certain period in that year, even though otherwise why would there be so many businesses being set up in that area? So that could be one of the reasons. And like he was saying that if a person can explain or he does put his appeal forward, excuses are entertained. I don't think so any of my officials would entertain any excuses through just by saying it. Whenever a tax has to decrease, or like compared to the previous year, if it has to go down, the first thing what they would ask for is a written appeal, stating their reason. So then it would be noted, and they would, of course, not, take a decision straight away. They would then talk with the, find out from the neighboring business entities if that person really had a certain problem. Or in certain cases, we do have the BCCI representative in that Dzongkha certifying it. Yes. Or we may have the GUP or the local government officials certifying it. Then our tax officials could decrease the tax. So when we say that we do decrease, I think it goes back to what MP Uge has said, that that we only keep increasing, we don't listen to appeals. So our people do entertain decrease in tax if there is a genuine reason. And most of the time when a taxpayer would face loss, especially in these estimated cases, would be due to death, they have closed their shop, then it would be due to, and if I can quote a very, the case where we were proactive, not the taxpayers coming forward to us. In the case of the Pumdang fire, I think the Department of Revenue and Customs head office, informed our regional office in Pumdang, told them the fire has happened, the people are going to have been affected. Find out the list of the people, business community who have been affected. Then we put up a note to the ministry to waive off the tax for that year. So it is not that we keep increasing. If you can prove to us that you have suffered a loss, you have closed your shop for that year, and when you say it, a person saying it will not suffice. So we do ask them to get it certified or endorsed by somebody of the local government. So then we do entertain. So I think that year part would be answered according to what MP Uge has said. And going with the preconceived notion of collecting taxes, yes, I have to say that we are all given targets, all the regional offices are given targets, because we are given target by the Ministry of Finance, how much revenue we would collect in a year, fiscal year. Then we would look at the scenario, we tell what would be our targets like. But it is not necessary that if certain unforeseen conditions happen, that we have to reach that target. We may not reach certain targets at certain point in certain years, but we do not send our people out with that notion. We would ask them, take into consideration whatever is happening at the ground level, then only collect the taxes. So it may have happened in certain cases, but then from our side, what we are always trying to tell our officials is try to be as realistic as possible and make sure that the taxpayers are not taxed beyond what is their capacity to pay.
Yes, so another question. We have another caller online, but before that, I think Trompe and Phupchiring have been silent for quite some time. Maybe it to Trompe. Tax. Is it a problem in municipal areas? Are people cooperating? Because the topic itself says that paying tax is a collective responsibility. Are people coming forward? Because we have seen some people share their grievances for municipality coming up or increasing tax. I don't know how far it's true, but people do have complaints. And best would be nobody is taxed. Everybody is happy. But the benefits that we all know is tremendous. And nobody wants to look at the benefits, but they don't want to be taxed.
I think let me also clarify here again what I have done in the Dzongkha section, that from 2011 January, we have levied the urban taxes on the extended area of the city, meaning it has started from Ngabirongchu till Chantaga in the north. Whatever area has come under the city with the approval of the parliament, I think we have started levying the urban taxes. Now, when we did that, I think some people were not happy. They have raised their concerns. But definitely, it is our responsibility to convince them, and we did have consultation meetings. And basically, the taxes were levied to make our financial position better, so that we could provide the amenities, the basic amenities, at a faster rate than depending on the budgetary provisions that is provided by the central government. So this, I think, the public at large has understood that levying the urban tax for the whole city meant that the services will definitely improve in the years to come. Now, when you come to the taxes, the problems associated with the taxes, I think as far as the land taxes are concerned, I think people are very prompt. They're coming well ahead to pay all the taxes on time. But for the property taxes, the building taxes, till last year, I think most people did not know that they have to pay tax on the buildings. I think people should know that once they have constructed the building and the assessment is done by the city and it is recorded in the books of the city, they have to come and pay the taxes on the buildings. And that is picking up, and we are creating more awareness that yes, once your building is done, your occupancy certificate is a must, based on which all these utilities are getting connected. So therefore, till last year, I think we had problem with the property taxes, and now it should improve. Similarly, there is no problem on the property transfer taxes that we collect when the property is being transacted. On the overall, we have certain problems associated with the land occupied by the government agencies, the armed forces, and also the land belonging to Trasang, where I think till today they have not paid taxes. So we have returned to them, and we hope that they will respond to our inquiries so that we receive the taxes on time. And with the taxes being received, I think city can perform better, we can deliver services on time, improve the amenities at a faster rate.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we have another caller online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Dawa. I have the debate is going on very well. Thank you so much. But I have quickly 4 concerns. Number one, the taxation. Yes, of course, it is to reduce income disparity, to have equal income. But I just wonder whether we have any kind of a progressive taxation policy here or not. Because the richer becomes the richer and the poor becomes the poor remains as what they were. That is one concern. And the second is the taxation. Taxation imposed by the city corporation. Taxation with regard to all the urban facilities, but particularly when it comes to the water supply. But within the Thimphu area, there are some areas where we don't get even the water supply for about weeks. So in that matter, the tax taxes and the services provided are not matching. I just would like to know who are there. And the Honorable Champion has highlighted that there are government agencies who has not complied with the municipal's law and rules. So in that case, what kind of actions are taken against the no matter whether the private or the government agencies? And in the third place, the Dawa you have raised during the conversation that the quota allotted to the privileges, I would put it in that way. But when it comes to the quota case, I do respect that whoever gets the quota should be respected in the sense because through that quota there are certain benefits Yes, whoever is entitled for the quotas may be individually benefited, but accumulating, but at the larger interest, yes, the diplomatic relationship, and through that there won't be any loss to the government. So in that case, just to sum up, whether there is a progressive taxation, if progressive taxation is there, definitely yes. The development, Millennium Development Goals, the reduction of poverty, and the equality of income disparity will be reduced. And thirdly,
Okay, sir.
thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for your concerns and questions put up. I think before we move on with the questions that were asked, let me put another question to Mr. Phupsring. Manipulation within the business community. Now, Mr. Ugensering, Honorable Member of Parliament, earlier mentioned that those who maintain book of accounts are the ones who actually express or who actually show their profits in the negative, which is a clear sign of manipulation. Now, if this is the case, then we also would be looking for very honest shopkeepers if we are to tax based on the estimation that is mentioned by Amkezang. So what do you think within the business community, the talk that is going around when it comes to tax? It's a tax season and people must be approaching your offices with some excuses.
Anyway, thank you, Dawa. I think the question that you put is very relevant. The question that you are putting to the private sector is there a manipulation in filling up tax forms? All these loopholes, if the rules are good, if the rules are transparent, if the rules are informed, there will be no space for manipulation. So the onus is not on the taxpayer, but on the regulators. If there is a loophole in the regulation which allows manipulation, well, the private business people are business people and are for profit. So manipulation will naturally happen. That's trained everywhere, not only in Bhutan, globally, and nobody can stop that. But what is very important here is when you build up regulations, when you implement regulations, when you do it in a system, the system should not have loopholes where manipulations can come in. So I would like to throw back this question, is our system loophole tight? If that is the case, how does the question of manipulation come about? So this needs to be answered. Well, before we answer give you the answer why it is being manipulated, I'm not saying there are no manipulations. It may have happened. It may be there. But then, because of this reason, the regulators are put into place, regulations are put into place, the acts are put into place. So if there is a transparency in implementation of that system, I don't think there will be any manipulations. And I wouldn't buy that argument of saying that the private sector people are manipulating. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm guessing you have too many questions to answer, but maybe the first one, are we going for progressive taxation? Because the caller actually mentioned that rich are becoming richer and poor remains where they are, which means we are not going for progressive taxation. That is the first question, if you would like to answer.
With regard to progressive taxation, I think we already have in place in the personal income tax, the tax which we levy is in the progressive, is what we call the progressive taxation. Because as your income increases, then your tax rate also increases. It's like, for example, if you have just an income of 100,000, 1 lakh income, you are not taxed. And if you have an income above 1 lakh to 250, from between 1 lakh to 250, then your tax rate is 10%. Then it goes up to 15%. Then we have again we have a slab. And from 2 lakhs 50 to 5 lakhs is 15%. From 5 lakhs to 1 million is 20%. And if you have an income more than that, it's 25%. Now, why I say progressive is because we do not levy 25% straight away on an income which you earn above 1 million. Okay, if you earn an income of 1 million, if you earn your total taxable income is 1 million in a year, we would first of all the 1 lakh is exempted, then we will tax at 10%, 15%, 20 and 25. So we will go in the progressive way. So if you earn less income, you would be paying at a lesser rate, and as you earn more, your tax rate would keep going up. So that is what is there in the progressive taxation in the personal income tax. But whereas in the BIT and the business income tax and the corporate income tax, we don't have the progressive rate. We have just the flat rate of 30%, that is on the net profit. So over there, we cannot afford to have progressive rate because the tax rate is on the net profit. So that is how it is in Bhutan right now, the tax structure.
Is our system free of loopholes?
Okay, with regard to people maintaining books of accounts, where you have asked, I think, sir, that about manipulation in the books of accounts. From my personal point of view, if you maintain books of accounts, manipulation is a very difficult thing. Because what happens is, when you submit your returns, you will not submit all your documents to Department of Revenue and Customs. You would submit your profit and loss account, your balance sheet. You would submit the financial statements. What we do is we will audit that. And if you say you have an income of 100 million and you cannot and whereas we find out that from your total income and we do a cross check and we find out it is more, we will take that, and then whatever has evaded, we would levy the penalty on that. And manipulation in the sense would be either you decrease your income or you increase your expenses. In the case of expenses, what we would do is, if your expenses are increased and your supporting documents are not there to support that expenditure, we disallow. Yes. So that is why we have the teams going out for field assessment, whereby we have the assessment reports coming out and whereby we even levy the additional tax. And people cannot just manipulate and postpone the payment. What we do is, when we do the audit, and if you find out that they have manipulated by trying to inflate their expenses or decrease their income, what we would do is any additional tax levied after that assessment report, you will be liable to a penalty of late interest of 24%. So that is for keeping that government's money with them. Yes. And trying to avoid deferring the payment. So that is there. So manipulation through books of accounts would be, unless you have very smart accountants or where you do tax planning, that would be your case. But other than that, to say manipulation by inflating your expense or trying to reduce your income, it would be a little bit difficult, because they will bear the brunt of it when they have to pay the 24% late interest.
Okay, thank you. I do have two questions asked by a caller to Chompin, but before that, Mr. Chukwu won't let me speak before I give him the opportunity.
I very well agree with BCCI Secretary General Mr. Phupsring that if you put in a system where people can play around, then definitely they will do so. But definitely I feel that we need to strengthen and streamline the kind of system that we put in place. For example, this is my personal suggestion that rather than focusing on the profit, if we can focus on the turnover, I think that would somehow solve the problem. For example, in the construction sector, you focus more on the winning contracts and not on the actual profit. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Two questions to Chompin. One is, the amount you tax does not match with the services that you provide. Poor services versus the tax that you impose, levy, one. And the other one is, if people fail to file their taxes on time, what are the actions that the municipal authorities would take on them? Any actions taken so far?
On the facilities, I would like to clarify here that the taxes that were levied before 2011 is the rural taxes, and I think that is very, very little. And we have raised that in 2011, and in just 2 years, I think we cannot see a big change. I think what you are not getting before 2 years, if we can provide in next 2 to 3 years, I think that is very reasonable. That's what I mean to say, that please don't expect change overnight, that we have raised the taxes, the services should improve immediately. I think it should take time. It is very difficult that we don't get enough budget from the government to provide all services and all amenities in one go. I think we have to prioritize. We have to see where the density population is, and that's how the city would prioritize to provide the services. And regarding the payment, delay in payment for the taxes, I think is as per the Ministry of Finance rules. I think if you don't pay on time, definitely the 24% penalty will be levied on the amount that you are liable to pay. And if that doesn't happen, I think if it is for more than 3 years, you could even lose your ownership of the land. That's exactly what is written in the Land Act. And we are following up with those institutions, those agencies who have not registered or who have not paid taxes over the last couple of years. We are following up with the Land Commission as to how to tackle these issues. As per the Act, if you don't pay taxes for the last 3 years, you can even lose ownership of your land and the property.
Yes, yes. Thank you. We do not have much time left, but again, one area of concern that we need to discuss right now is, I'm sorry, we do not have much time, as I said earlier, but then again, I think it's worth bringing up this issue, and maybe we can remind ourselves the realities that are happening. Honorable Member of Parliament, before you became Honorable Member of Parliament, I heard that you also used to be a very good businessman. Now, question here is that we have often heard that when this indirect taxes are levied, there used to be some wheelings and dealings going on between the businessmen and some custom officials. Is it true, sir? Have you heard of this?
Well, those who procure goods, especially in very huge quantities, I don't think that is a possibility, because at the end of the project, whatever you have procured, you need to show it or reflect it in your books of accounts. Anything done without proof or evidence is not entertained by the officials while we show our books of accounts. So therefore, the emphasis is not to procure or to purchase materials from across the border and connive with the customs officials and make the things for an easy entry. I don't think that is a possibility. Maybe some shopkeepers, some little bit, whose turnover is around 4 lakhs, 500,000, they may do it, because for them, they don't have, since they do not maintain books of accounts, and they do not understand, and due to lack of advocacy or awareness, it could be that. But in the bigger houses, because at the end of the project or at the end of the day, it is what you show to the government officials that, look, this is authenticate bills or challans which you have procured. So underpaying and getting your things without having paid the taxes are not accepted. So therefore, saving by not showing proper records is a loss on the business entity than doing it the rightful way. So therefore, the question doesn't arise.
Okay. Mr. Phupsring, what do you think? Have you heard of any instances?
Well,
wish you could be very honest.
Yes, there are allegations that these things are being done. The fact is that it may have happened. We don't deny that. But like I said earlier, it is totally dependent on the integrity of the person who files the tax or the regulator who enforces taxation. So the ultimate thing that we really need to think over and work is that we have to talk together, discuss, And in doing so, I think transparency is very important, which means the regulations has to be very transparent. Not enough being transparent even. It needs to be, created awareness among taxpayers. From the private sector point of view, I think only 50% of the people are aware of the taxation policies. Now, if everybody has to pay tax, the onus is on DRC to create this awareness why people should pay taxes. And the expenditure has to also be booked on the tax that we pay. So as a taxpayer, the taxpayer's question of asking where our taxpayers' money is going results in this, And we have every right to say how our tax money is spent, because it has to benefit the taxpayers. And one way of benefiting is giving them opportunity to be aware of the policies, the layer of processes that they need to go through. If that is all done, I think it will not be an issue. And we would like to see that happen, consultative processes when rules are framed, so that it is much more easier to implement later on, the processes. And I don't think this problem is going to last. This is a transitional problem. We need to accept that. Like I said in my Dzongkha deliberations, that it's a transition, and our business people are transiting from being grocers turned to industrialists to an actual businessman coming back with an MBA degree to run an industry or a setup. So it takes time, It will take more time, and 10 to 15 years is what we envisage, that all these policies, everything can be implemented smoothly when people's understanding move forward. So like every time we become the scapegoat, allegations are thrown to the private sector. But what is very important for us to remember is that the driver of the economy is the private sector, and the economic strength will be the strength of this country. So the responsibility on the regulator's part, and we as the private sector part, is to work together, create a bigger revenue base so that we are not dependent on others. And this is so much true at this stage because we are now looking at import substitution. So that is where we are also voicing for fiscal incentives to be given, because we need to, broaden the base of the tax so that the expenditures are met.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. One final question. I'm guessing you can answer this, or if you wish to let some of your colleagues answer this, they can also do that. But final one, from what Mr. Phupsring just mentioned, we have so many honest taxpayers, as much as we could have so many honest custom officials or revenue officials who are regulating the whole process. But the fact is, how often do you keep into account the code of conduct of your officials? Are you receiving some complaints on some of the conducts of your officials, especially in the border areas? Because so many goods coming in, and we have definitely heard of some wheelings and dealings going on. And if that's the case, honesty is out of the window.
I think everybody seems to be hearing allegations. Even we receive allegations of such types, and I think the management at DRC is quite clear and strong on what we want to do when we receive such allegations. We always make sure that we do a investigation, separately. And we always keep in mind that when we have such allegations coming up, we try to study the background of that person against whom the allegation is. Then what we do is, if we don't have concrete evidence being put to us, I think it's difficult for us to take action. So what we do is, if we feel that there could be like little bit of justification to like things like this being happening at the checkpoints, what we do is we try to make sure that first we study. If we find that there are loopholes or there is chances that such things can happen, what we try to do, if we don't have evidence, if we have evidence, action is taken. That is certain. If we don't have evidence, what are we to do? We have to make sure that we just ensure that the person is put in a place where he will not have such facilities. So we have the transfer procedures, whereby we then make sure that these people who are against whom the allegations are there, we make sure, and if we feel that there could be room for it, we make sure that we transfer them to areas where they do not have to deal with the public. So I am not going to defend my officials at the DRC saying that such things cannot happen, because I am not certain. And to say such a thing on air would be quite it would be such a very strong statement to say no. If there is then we take action. So that is there. We are quite
And for
certain.
that, you also need public support.
Yes, la.
People to come
So,
forward and
yes, la.
lodge complaints.
That is the thing. And for our people to do anything, I think they would always, it would always take two to tangle, la, minna, la. So I think now both DRC and the taxpayers, taxpaying public, we should know that this is something what we term as corruption, no, la. So I think we need to know that this, we cannot do anything. We all have to fight it together. So the taxpayers as well as our people, we have to do it together, la. And if there is any person against whom there is such a case, I think that person has to be strong enough to come and voice it to us so that we can take action, la. And we all need to fight against it, and I think then we will be able to fulfill our constitutional mandate, la, where it says that one of the fundamental duty is, like gets said in the Dzongkha section, each person should have the responsibility to pay taxes, la, in accordance with the law. Now, if that person doesn't want to pay and our enforcement people don't want to live, I think both are not performing their fundamental duty, and both should be equally responsible. So from DRC's side, if there are such cases, we would like people to voice it, and then we would take action. If people are hesitant to come forward to tell us, then I think allegations remain allegation and we cannot find evidence.
No, so, okay, briefly, I'll give you 30 seconds. It's on, please.
I just want to supplement what my commissioner has said here. La. We have a live example. La. Recently, there was a complaint letter sent to us regarding the allegations made to our customs officials. La. So what I want to say is a concerted effort between the taxpayers and the DRC officials. La. In their complaint letter, they just said the customs officials. La. They haven't mentioned the name of that official. Okay. In such cases, it's very difficult for us to take action. La. So if we want to uproot such problem in our economy, I think it is the responsibility of the taxpayer that they tell us the name, give us some evidence so that we can take action. If they give, despite their information, if you don't take action, then the whole fault lies with the Department of Revenue Customs. But until now, there has been certain allegations, but then there was not even a single concrete evidence. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. With this, we would like to come to the end of our program. I'd like to thank Amkezang Diki, Mr. Kiledoji, Mr. Ugen Swing, and Mr. Phup Soring for all your wonderful contributions to this program. Thank you so much. As Amkezang Diki said, it takes two to tangle. So paying tax is a collective responsibility, no doubt, that everybody knows. But being honest and upholding the system that we have in place is also a collective responsibility, fundamental duty. Let's keep in our mind. Thank you so much for watching this program, and it's time to say good night. Thank you.